Commander Dae-ho Kim stood at the observation deck of Trading Station Alpha, watching the stars through the thick glass. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he did not care. Today was special. Today marked 10 years since humans first met, the Valorans. The station floated peacefully around Kepler 442b, a blue-green planet that reminded Dae-ho of Earth. But this world belonged to the Valorans. They had built this trading post together, humans and Valorans working side by side. It was the first time in history that humans had real alien friends. "Commander, the Valoran delegation is ready for the ceremony," said Taemin Lee, stepping up beside him. The young communications officer spoke Valoran better than most humans. He had spent 5 years learning their language and customs. Dae-ho nodded and straightened his uniform. "How is Ambassador Kethvar feeling today?" "Happy but tired," Taemin replied. "He says this is the proudest day of his long life." The commander smiled. Kethvar was ancient by human standards, over 200 years old. But for Valorans, he was just entering his wise years. His green scales had turned silver with age, and his yellow eyes held the wisdom of centuries. They walked through the station's corridors. Human crew members worked alongside Valoran technicians. Children from both species played together in the recreation areas. It was beautiful to see. Dr. Hai-Jin Park met them at the ceremony hall. The xenobiologist had become an expert on Valoran culture over the years. She wore traditional Valoran friendship colors, deep blue and gold. "The medical exchange is ready," she reported. "Our nanobots will help them fight diseases that have killed thousands of their people. In return, their shield technology will protect our ships better than anything we ever built." This trade was more than business. It was trust. The Valorans were sharing their most advanced military technology with humans. The Galactic Council had always kept such things to themselves. They said younger species could not be trusted with powerful weapons. But the Valorans were different. They believed in honor and friendship. When humans first arrived in space, most alien species ignored them or treated them like children. The Valorans welcomed them as equals. The ceremony began with traditional Valoran throat singing. Their deep, rumbling voices filled the hall. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the center, his ceremonial robes shining under the lights. Beside him, Dae-ho represented all of humanity. "Today we share not just our technology but our hearts," Kethvar said in his careful English. "Humans have shown us that the galaxy can be better. You fight for what is right. You protect the weak. You keep your promises." The old Valoran's words touched everyone in the room. Humans and Valorans alike wiped tears from their eyes. Dae-ho responded in Valoran, his pronunciation careful but sincere. "We stand together as brothers. Your honor is our honor. Your enemies are our enemies. Your future is our future." The crowd cheered. Children from both species ran forward to exchange gifts. Human kids gave Valoran youngsters earth flowers preserved in crystal. Valoran children presented humans with carved memory stones that would glow with their friendship. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about this friendship. In the depths of space, the Galactic Council watched through hidden sensors. The Council controlled most of the galaxy's advanced species. The hegemony ruled the Council with an iron fist. They decided which species could have advanced technology and which could not. The Human-Valoran alliance worried them. If younger species started sharing technology freely, the Council would lose control. They had spent thousands of years building their power. They would not let humans and their reptilian friends destroy it. Council ships moved silently through hyperspace, heading toward the trading station. Their crews prepared weapons that could destroy entire worlds. The Council had decided that this friendship must end, but at the station, the celebration continued. Valoran engineers demonstrated their shield technology to amazed human scientists. The energy barriers could stop almost any weapon. Human doctors showed Valorans how nanobots could repair damaged organs in minutes. Young Su Kang, a rookie pilot, stood with his Valoran friend Velthar near the docking bay. They had grown up together on the station, playing the same games and dreaming the same dreams. "My father wants me to join the Valoran Defense Force," Velthar said, his translator converting his hissing speech to Korean. "My parents want me in Earth's space fleet," Young Su replied. "Maybe we will serve together someday." They did not know that someday would come much sooner than they thought. Bo-Ram Choi worked late in the engineering section, calibrating the IDZIR new Valoran shield generators. The technology was amazing. She could not understand how it worked, but she could see its power. These shields could protect entire cities. "The readings are perfect," she told her Valoran partner, tech engineer Silvar. "Your people are geniuses." Silvar's tongue flicked out in the Valoran equivalent of a smile. "Your nanobots are equally impressive. Together we will build wonders." Neither of them noticed the warning lights starting to flash on the deep space. Sensors. Sungwoo Nam, the station's security chief, was finishing his evening patrol when his communicator buzzed. The message was simple, but terrifying. "Multiple unknown ships approaching. No response to identification requests." He ran to the command center, where Dae-ho was already studying the scanner displays. 12 massive ships were dropping out of hyperspace, surrounding the trading station. "Galactic Council vessels," Tae-min reported, his face pale. "They are not answering our calls." Dae-ho felt ice in his stomach. The Council had never visited the station before. They had always ignored the Human-Valoran alliance, treating it as unimportant. "Get Ambassador Kethvar," he ordered, "and prepare the evacuation pods just in case." But even as he spoke, Dae-ho knew it might be too late. The Council ships were already powering their weapons. Their message was clear without words. The celebration was over. The real test of Human-Valoran friendship was about to begin. The first warning came at 0347 hours. Bo-Ram Choi was still working on the shield generators when every alarm on the station started screaming. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Emergency broadcasts echoed from the speakers. "All personnel, to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Unknown vessels have surrounded the station." Bo-Ram ran to the main engineering bay. Her hands shook as she activated the defense systems. The new Valoran shields came online, creating a shimmering barrier around the station, but she could see on the scanners that 12 massive warships had them completely surrounded. In the command center, Dae-ho Kim stared at the tactical display. Each council ship was 10 times larger than the trading station. Their weapons were already charging, energy readings climbing to dangerous levels. "Sir, Ambassador Kethvar is on his way," Tae-min Lee reported. The young officer's voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he worked the communications console. "Any response from the council ships?" Dae-ho asked. "Nothing, sir. They are jamming all our transmissions." The main doors opened and Ambassador Kethvar entered, still wearing his ceremonial robes from the friendship celebration. The old Valoran's yellow eyes were bright with worry. "Commander Kim, what is the situation?" Before Dae-ho could answer, the lead council ship sent a transmission. The holographic image of a hegemony commander appeared in the center of the room. The alien was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that showed no emotion. "This station is in violation of Galactic Law 4471B, the commander said, his voice cold and mechanical. "You are harboring dangerous technology that threatens galactic security. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences." Kethvar stepped forward, his old body straight with dignity. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Valoran Republic. This station operates under legal trade agreements. We have violated no laws." The hegemony commander's expression did not change. "The sharing of military technology with primitive species is forbidden. Your alliance with humans ends now." "Humans are not primitive," Kethvar replied, anger creeping into his voice. They are our friends and equals. Your friendship is the problem, the commander said. Surrender the humans and the technology, or we will take them by force. Deho felt rage building in his chest. We will not abandon our allies. The commander's image flickered. Then you have chosen death. The transmission ended. For a moment, the command center was silent except for the humming of computers and the distant sound of children crying in the evacuation areas. All human and Valoran families to the escape pods, Deho ordered. Security teams to defensive positions. But, Kethvar shook his head, my people will not run from bullies. We stand with our human friends. Sungwoo Nam burst into the command center. Sir, Valoran Defense Force ships are refusing to evacuate. They are taking battle positions around the station. Through the observation windows, they could see Valoran. Warships moving into formation. The reptilian species had only 20 ships compared to the Council's 12 massive dreadnoughts, but they were ready to fight. Tell them to retreat, Deho said. This is not their battle. Kethvar's tongue flicked out sadly. Commander, you do not understand Valoran honor. We cannot abandon friends in danger. It would make us less than animals. The first Council ship opened fire without warning. Massive energy beams struck the station's shields. The Valoran barriers held, but the impact threw everyone to the floor. Emergency lights flickered as power systems strained. Boram's voice crackled over the intercom. Shields at 60% and falling. We cannot take many more hits like that. Outside, the Valoran Defense Force engaged the Council fleet. Their smaller ships darted between the massive dreadnoughts, firing plasma torpedoes and energy beams. For a moment, it looked like they might have a chance. But the Council had been planning this attack for months. More ships dropped out of hyperspace, 30, 40, 50 vessels. The Valorans were outnumbered 5-1. Hyejin Park ran through the corridors, helping evacuate the science labs. Valoran and human researchers worked together, saving their most important data. Children from both species held hands as they moved toward the escape pods. Dr. Park, we need to save the medical nanobots, a young Valoran scientist called. They could save millions of lives. Already done, Hyejin replied, patting her emergency pack. The complete specifications are here. But she knew it might not matter. The Council ships were systematically destroying the escape pods as they launched. No one was allowed to leave alive. Young Su Kang and his friend Velthar reached the fighter bay. Both of them knew how to pilot small ships, though they had never been in real combat. We have to help the defense force, Velthar said, his scales changing color with determination. Young Su looked at the small fighters available. They were training ships, not military vessels. But they were all they had. Together? He asked. Together, Velthar agreed. They launched their fighters just as another wave of Council fire hit the station. The shields failed completely. The next barrage tore through the station's hull, venting atmosphere and debris into space. In the command center, Taemin worked desperately to establish contact with Earth. I am getting through the jamming, he reported. Transmitting emergency. Signal now. A Council torpedo struck the communications array. Taemin screamed as his console exploded, throwing him backward. Burns covered his face and hands, but he kept trying to send the message. Signal transmitted, he gasped before falling unconscious. The battle outside was turning into a massacre. Valoran ships exploded one by one under the Council's overwhelming firepower. Young Su watched his friend Velthar's fighter get hit by a plasma beam. The ship spun out of control and crashed into an asteroid. Velthar! Young Su screamed, but there was no response. On the station, Ambassador Kethvar made his way to the primary transmitter. Council Marines were boarding now, killing everyone they found. The old Valoran had minutes at most. His clawed fingers worked the controls, sending a final message toward Earth. His words were simple, but filled with emotion. Human friends, Remember us. Remember our friendship. The Council has shown their true nature. They fear what we built together. Do not let our deaths be meaningless. Seek justice for the innocent. Honor the bonds we shared. A plasma bolt struck him in the back. As Kethvar fell, he pressed the transmission button one last time. The message began its long journey to Earth. Dae-ho Kim fought desperately in the corridors, trying to protect the remaining civilians. But Council soldiers were everywhere, there, advanced weapons cutting through human and Valoran defenders alike. He found Hye-jin trapped under debris from a collapsed ceiling. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead. "The children," she whispered. "Did the children escape?" Dae-ho could not answer. He had seen the escape pods being destroyed. Very few had made it to safety. The station's life support systems were failing. Bodies floated in the corridors. The celebration hall, where humans and Valorans had shared their friendship just hours before, was now filled with smoke and death. Bo-ram Choi died at her post, trying to restore power to the emergency systems. Sung Woo Nam fell defending the medical bay. One by one, the defenders were overwhelmed. Young-soo's damaged fighter limped away from the battle, one of only 3 ships to escape the massacre. Behind him, the trading station exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. The Council fleet turned toward the Valoran homeworld. Their message was clear. This was what happened to species that befriended humans. But they had made one critical mistake. In their arrogance, they had allowed a few survivors to escape, and one of those survivors carried Ambassador Kethvar's final message to Earth. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans lost everything they cared about. The message reached Earth 3 days after the massacre. Young-soo Kang's damaged fighter had jumped through 7 star systems, running on emergency power and sheer determination. When he finally collapsed on the landing pad at Luna Station, medics found him barely alive. In his burned hands, he clutched a data crystal containing Ambassador Kethvar's final transmission. Admiral Ji-hoon Seo stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, watching the holographic playback for the 10th time. The old Valoran's dying words echoed in the chamber. "Remember us. Remember our friendship. Seek justice for the innocent." Around the table sat Earth's most powerful leaders. President Jae-sung-oh had not slept in 48 hours. His face was gray with exhaustion and rage. "How many survivors?" the president asked quietly. 17 humans. "No Valorans," Admiral Ji-hoon replied. The Council destroyed their homeworld 12 hours after the station attack. 40 billion people gone. General Mi Young-han slammed her fist on the table. "They murdered our friends and expect us to do nothing." Dr. Yoon Jung-yoon, head of Earth's most secret research projects, spoke softly. "What are your orders, Mr. President?" Jae-sung. Oh looked around the room at faces he had known for years. These people had helped him build a peaceful Earth, united and prosperous. They had celebrated when humans first reached the stars. They had wept with joy when the Valorans became their friends. Now they waited for him to make the hardest decision in human history. "Show me what we have," the president said. Dr. Eun-jung activated the holographic displays. Secret bases appeared in the projection, hidden throughout the solar system. Weapons that officially did not exist. Ships that had never been reported to the Galactic Council. "For 50 years, we have been preparing for this day," she explained. "Not because we wanted war, but because we knew the galaxy was dangerous. While we showed the Council our peaceful face, we built our real defenses in secret." Admiral Ji-hoon highlighted fleet positions. "The Ghost Fleet is ready. 300 fully automated warships, each one controlled by advanced AI. They can fight without human crews, using tactics no organic mind could predict." General Mi Young brought up ground forces data. "Special Operations Division has been training for alien combat since first contact. We know the biology, psychology, and weaknesses of every Council species." But it was Dr. Yoon-jung's next revelation that made everyone in the room go silent. "Project Prometheus," she announced. "Self-replicating nanobots that can convert enemy ships into our weapons. Once they infect a council vessel, they spread to every ship that vessel contacts. Within hours, entire fleets turn against their own commanders." President Jae-sung Oh stared at the weapon specifications. "How many people know about this?" 12 scientists total, all sworn to absolute secrecy. The room was quiet except for the humming of computers. Outside, Earth continued its normal life. People went to work, children played in parks, and lovers watched sunsets. They did not know their government was deciding whether to go to war with half the galaxy. "There is something else," Admiral Ji-hoon said hesitantly. "The genetic modifications." More displays appeared, showing human test subjects with enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes. Soldiers who could fight in any environment, survive in space without suits, and see in complete darkness. "We call them the Enhanced," General Mi-young explained. "Volunteers who agreed to become something more than human. They are faster than any alien species, stronger than most, and their minds work at incredible speeds." President Jae-sung felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "How many enhanced soldiers do we have?" 10,000, spread across 40 secret bases. "Each one is worth 100 normal troops in combat." The president walked to the window overlooking the moonscape. Earth hung in the black sky like a blue marble, beautiful and peaceful. Soon it might be the center of a galactic war. "Sir," Dr. Yoon-jung said gently, "there is one more thing you need to know. The Valorans were not our only friends. Intelligence reports indicate 12 other species have been in secret contact with us. They are all waiting to see what we do." Admiral Ji-hoon nodded. "If we fight back, they will join us. If we do nothing, the Council will hunt them down one by one." The president turned back to his advisors. These were good people who had spent their lives serving humanity. Now he was asking them to unleash something terrible upon the galaxy. "The Council thinks we are weak because we chose peace," he said slowly. "They believe humans are soft, emotional creatures who will cry and surrender when hurt." General Mi-young's eyes glittered with cold fire. "They are about to learn how wrong they are." "Mr. President," Admiral Ji-hoon said, "I need to tell you something about human nature. We are not naturally peaceful. Peace was a choice we made after we almost destroyed ourselves. But when that choice is taken away from us..." He did not need to finish. Everyone in the room understood. President Jae-sung made his decision. "Activate all secret protocols. Contact our hidden allies. Bring the enhanced soldiers online." Dr. Yoon-jung's fingers flew over her controls. "Project Prometheus is authorized?" "Authorized." "General Mi-young, how long until we can begin operations?" 72 hours, sir. Our forward scouts are all ready. In position?" The president looked one more time at Ambassador Kethvar's final message. The old Valoran's face was peaceful even in death, trusting that his human friends would do what was right. "There will be no formal declaration of war," Jae-sung announced. "The Council showed no mercy to innocents. We will show them none in return." As the meeting ended, each leader left to begin their preparations. In 72 hours, the galaxy would discover that humans had been hiding their true nature for half a century. The Council had awakened something that had been sleeping peacefully in the darkness between stars. Something that had once fought world wars with primitive weapons and survived. Something that had turned competition into exploration and hatred into friendship. But when that friendship was murdered in cold blood, the sleeping giant would wake and the galaxy would burn. Deep in the Luna research facility, Dr. Yoon-jung watched as the first batch of Prometheus nanobots came online. They were invisible to the naked eye but contained the accumulated knowledge of human warfare. Each tiny machine could think, adapt, and reproduce. Once released into Council space, they would spread like a plague, turning the enemy's greatest strength into their weakness. The Valorans had shared their shield technology out of love. Now humanity would share something else entirely. Revenge. Captain So-hyun Lim stood on the bridge of the stealth destroyer Soul's Vengeance, watching the hegemony supply convoy through her ship's invisible hull. 12 massive cargo vessels moved slowly through space, protected by only 4 patrol ships. The Council had grown lazy in their arrogance. "Target analysis complete," reported Lieutenant Haewon Kim from the weapons station. The young pilot was the daughter of Commander Dae-ho Kim, who had died defending the trading station. Her father's death burned in her eyes like cold fire. "Weapons free," So-hyun ordered. "Remember, we take no prisoners." The Soul's Vengeance had been hunting Council ships for 2 weeks. She was one of 50 stealth destroyers that had appeared from nowhere, striking supply lines across the galaxy. Each ship was invisible to Council sensors and carried weapons that turned matter into energy. The attack lasted 30 seconds. Quantum torpedoes tore through the convoy's shields like paper. The patrol ships exploded before they could send a distress signal. Within minutes, nothing remained but expanding clouds of debris. "Another successful hunt," Haewon reported with satisfaction. But So-hyun felt no joy. Each destroyed ship brought them closer to justice for the Valorans, but it would never bring back the friends they had lost. 3,000 light-years away, Major Dong-hyuk Park led his enhanced soldiers through the corridors of a Council communication station. The base was supposed to be impregnable, built inside a hollow asteroid with automated defenses. The defenses had been no match for human ingenuity. Dong-hyuk moved faster than any normal human, his enhanced muscles carrying him silently through the metal passages. His team of 20 soldiers followed like ghosts, their modified eyes seeing perfectly in the darkness. The hegemony guards never knew what hit them. Enhanced reflexes made human soldiers nearly impossible to target. Enhanced strength let them tear through armor with their bare hands. Enhanced minds let them predict enemy movements before they happened. "Station secured," Dong-hyuk reported over his communicator. "Beginning data extraction. The information they found was valuable beyond measure. Council fleet positions, supply, schedules, and most importantly, the locations of civilian populations the Council was using as shields. Send it all to command," Dong-hyuk ordered, "and plant the Prometheus packages." His soldiers placed small devices throughout the station. When Council forces arrived to investigate, the nanobots would infect their ships. Within hours, those ships would become human weapons. The beauty of Prometheus was its subtlety. Infected ships looked and acted normal until activated. Council admirals were commanding fleets that could turn against them at any moment, and they had no idea. On the hegemony capital world, Grand Admiral Veltar studied reports from across the galaxy. In 3 weeks, the humans had destroyed over 200 Council ships. Supply lines were breaking down. Communication networks were failing. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his intelligence chief. "Humans are a peaceful species. They have no military tradition." The intelligence officer, a nervous creature called a Krell, shuffled his papers with 6-fingered hands. "Sir, we may have been wrong about human nature. These attacks show tactical knowledge we never suspected. Impossible. We have studied them for decades. They spend their time making art and exploring empty planets. They cry over dead animals." But even as Veltar spoke, he felt doubt creeping into his mind. The human attacks were too coordinated, too effective. This was not the work of a species learning warfare. This was the work of masters. "Sir," the Krell continued carefully, "there are reports of human ships that our sensors cannot detect. Weapons that convert matter directly into energy. Soldiers who move faster than our eyes can follow." Veltar's black eyes narrowed. "Where did they get such technology?" We believe they developed it themselves, in secret. While we thought they were weak, they were preparing for war. The Grand Admiral felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. If humans had been hiding their true capabilities, what else did the Council not know about them? His question was answered when the first Prometheus attack began. Admiral Zeklon was leading a patrol fleet near the Andorian sector when his flagship's weapon systems activated without orders. Plasma cannons that should have been aimed at human raiders instead targeted his own escort ships. "What is happening?" he screamed at his crew. But his crew was just as confused. Their computers had been infected by nanobots so small they were invisible. The tiny machines had rewritten the ship's programming, turning it into a human weapon while keeping the crew alive to witness their own betrayal. Zeklon watched in horror as his fleet destroyed itself. Ships that had served the Council for centuries now obeyed human commands. Their weapons tore through shields that had never been breached by enemy fire. When the carnage ended, only Zeklon's flagship remained, but it was no longer his. Every system answered to human controllers millions of miles away. A holographic image appeared on his bridge. It was President Jae-Sung-Oh of Earth speaking from his office in Geneva. "Admiral Zeklon," the human leader, said calmly, "you have served the Council faithfully for 60 years. You are not responsible for what your leaders did to our friends. You may take a shuttle and leave." Zeklon stared at the human in amazement. "You would spare me?" "We are not monsters," President O replied. "We fight to protect the innocent, not to satisfy our anger. Go home to your family. Tell them what you have seen." The Krell Admiral's shuttle launched just before his former flagship jumped into hyperspace, now part of the growing human fleet. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out hundreds of times. Council ships turned against their own forces. Communication. Networks carried human signals instead of Council orders. Supply depots exploded from within as nanobots converted their stored materials into bombs. The war's turning point came at the Battle of Vega Station. Grand Admiral Veltar had gathered the Council's largest fleet to crush the human rebellion. Once and for all, 300 massive dreadnoughts surrounded the human colony. But when Veltar gave the order to attack, half his fleet opened fire on the other half. Captain So-Hyun Lim watched from the Soul's Vengeance as the Council fleet tore itself apart. Prometheus nanobots had infected the enemy ships weeks ago, waiting for this moment. "Justice for the Valorans," she whispered. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the human colony was safe, and the Council's main fleet was scattered debris. Grand Admiral Veltar's escape pod was picked up by human ships. Unlike his subordinates, Veltar was not offered mercy. He had personally ordered the Valoran massacre. Young-Soo Kang, now recovered from his injuries and serving as a fighter pilot, stood guard as the hegemony leader was brought before a human tribunal. "You are charged with genocide," the judge announced. 40 billion Valoran lives. How do you plead?" Veltar raised his gray head proudly. "I plead that we were protecting galactic order. Humans and their allies were becoming too dangerous." Dangerous how? By sharing medical technology, by building friendships, by disrupting the balance of power that has kept the galaxy stable for millennia. Young-Soo thought of his friend Velthar, killed defending the trading station. He thought of Ambassador Kethvar's final words. He thought of children from both species playing together in halls now filled with silence. "Guilty," the tribunal declared. As Veltar was led away, Young-Soo felt no satisfaction. Justice had been served, but it could not bring back the dead. The war was ending, but its consequences would echo across the galaxy for generations. Humans had revealed their true nature to the universe. They were capable of incredible friendship and terrible vengeance in equal measure. The choice of which they offered would always belong to those who encountered them. 1 year after the Battle of Vega Station, Ambassador In-Suk Lee stood in the ruins of the old Galactic Council chambers. The massive building on the capital world of Hegemon Prime had once been the center of galactic power. Now it was a memorial to the victims of the Valoran massacre. The walls were covered with the names of the dead. 40 billion Valorans, along with the humans who had died trying to save them. Each name was carved in both human script and Valoran symbols, ensuring they would never be forgotten. Insuk had been Earth's representative to the Council before the war. She had spent years trying to work within their system, believing that peace could be achieved through negotiation. The massacre had taught her that some evils could only be stopped by force. "The memorial is beautiful," said director Kyung-ho Shin, joining her in the quiet chamber. The intelligence chief had coordinated much of the human war effort from the shadows. The Valorans would be honored. Insuk nodded, touching one of the carved names. Kethvar always believed that friendship was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Perhaps he was right. Through the chamber's windows, they could see the new order taking shape. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, protecting merchant vessels from pirates. Alien species that had hidden from the Council now traded openly with Earth. Children from dozens of worlds played together in integrated schools. The Terran Protectorate had replaced the Galactic Council as the galaxy's governing body. But unlike the Council, membership was voluntary. Species could join or leave as they chose. The only requirement was a promise not to attack innocent civilians. "Status report on the former Council territories?" Insuk asked. Kyung-ho consulted his datapad. "The hegemony has been reduced to their home system, as ordered. They are learning to grow their own food instead of stealing from other worlds. The Krell have requested membership in the Protectorate. They want human protection from the remaining pirates." Most former Council species had adapted quickly to the new reality. They had never loved their former masters, only feared them. Human rule was firmer but fairer. Trade flourished under the protection of the Ghost Fleet, but some species still resisted. Captain So-hyun Lim received the distress call while patrolling the Outer Rim. A human medical ship was under attack by Council loyalists near the Altair system. These rebels had been raiding civilian targets for months, trying to restart the old war. "All ships, jump to the rescue coordinates," So-hyun ordered. The Soul's Vengeance and her sister ships vanished into hyperspace. They arrived to find the medical vessel surrounded by 12 pirate ships. The rebels were firing on refugee transports filled with Valoran survivors, children who had escaped their homeworld's destruction. So-hyun's blood ran cold. After everything that had happened, there were still monsters who would kill children. "This is Captain Lim of the Terran Protectorate," she broadcast to the rebel fleet. "Cease your attack and surrender immediately." The rebel commander's image appeared on her screen. He was a hegemony officer, his gray skin marked with ritual scars of the old military. "We do not recognize human authority," he snarled. "The galaxy belongs to its rightful rulers." "The galaxy belongs to no one," So-hyun replied. "It is shared by all who live in peace. Then you will die defending your naive ideals." The rebels opened fire on the human ships. Their weapons were old and weak compared to human technology, but they fought with desperate fury. The battle was brief and one-sided. Enhanced human reflexes and quantum weapons made the outcome inevitable. But So-hyun took no pleasure in the victory. These rebels had chosen to die rather than accept a galaxy where species were treated as equals. As the last rebel ship exploded, So-hyun wondered if the cycle of violence would ever truly end. On Earth, President Jae Sung-oh faced the same question as he addressed the Global Assembly. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched as he spoke about the future of the galaxy. "We did not seek to become the galaxy's guardians," he said, looking out at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. "We wanted only to explore the stars and make friends among them. But when our friends were murdered, we had to choose. Remain silent or fight back." A young Valoran in the audience raised her clawed hand. She was one of the few survivors of her species, raised on Earth after the massacre. "Mr. President," she said in careful English, "my parents died on the trading station. I grew up hating the Council for what they did, but I also learned that hatred only creates more violence. How do we break this cycle? Jay sung. O smiled sadly. By remembering why we fight. We do not fight for conquest or revenge. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. When we forget that purpose, we become no better than those we defeated. In the reformed council chambers, now called the Hall of Friendship, representatives from dozens of species worked together on new laws. The rules were simple: no slavery, no genocide, no attacks on civilians. Species that followed these rules were welcome. Those that did not face the combined might of the Protectorate. Young Su Kang, now a senior pilot, trained new recruits from across the galaxy. Human, Valoran, Krell, and dozens of other species learned to fly together as comrades. Remember, he told his mixed class, "We are stronger together than apart." The council fell because they tried to rule through fear. We succeed because we choose to rule through friendship. One of his students, a young hegemony female, raised her hand. But instructor, what if friendship is not enough? What if someone attacks us again? Young Su thought of his friend Velthar, killed defending the trading station. He thought of all the good people who had died because evil beings chose violence over peace. Then we will do what we must, he replied, but we will never strike first. We will never attack the innocent, and we will never forget the price of peace. Dr. Hyojin Park, now director of the Protectorate's Scientific Council, worked in her laboratory on New Valoran. The planet had been terraformed as a home for the surviving members of the reptilian species. It looked much like their original world, with warm seas and crystal cities. She was developing new medical nanobots, improvements on the technology that had first brought humans and Valorans together. These tiny machines could heal any injury, cure any disease, and extend life far beyond natural limits. But she was also working on something else, a genetic project to restore the Valoran species. Using DNA samples from the survivors, her team was growing new Valoran children in artificial wombs. It would take generations, but someday their race would flourish again. "Progress report?" asked her assistant, a young human scientist named Minho. "Promising," Hyejin replied. "The first generation should be ready for birth in 6 months. They will be raised by surviving Valorans and human volunteers." Through her laboratory window, she could see Valoran and human children playing together in the colony's parks. They spoke a mixture of languages, created art that combined both cultures, and dreamed dreams that neither species could have imagined alone. This was the future that Ambassador Kethvar had died protecting. A galaxy where different species could live together as friends, sharing their knowledge and their hopes. The war was over, but its lessons remained. Humans had shown the galaxy their true nature, capable of terrible vengeance but driven by love for their friends. They had torn down an empire built on oppression and replaced it with something unprecedented, a government based on friendship rather than fear. The memorial wall in the old council chambers grew longer each year as new names were added. Not just the victims of the massacre, but all those who had died building the new galaxy, soldiers from dozens of species who had given their lives protecting the innocent. At the top of the wall, in letters of gold, were Ambassador Kethvar's final words: "Remember our friendship. Honor the bonds we shared." Below them, in a dozen languages, was humanity's reply: "We remember. We honor. We protect." The galaxy had learned that humans were the most dangerous friends and the most loyal enemies any species could have, the choice of which they would be remained, as always, with those who encountered them.